Welcome into Rebound Off the Net as we continue our series interviewing executives from around the league. I'm your host, Joshua Cox. Today we welcome in the general manager of the Salina Liberty, Mr. Sam Sellers. Sam, good to have you with us, man.
Thanks for having me, Joshua.
First off, Sam, this is the first time we've had you on. Tell us a little about your background and how you ended up in this position with the Salina Liberty and got involved in the game.
Yeah, there was a couple of times during the season where I was like, how did I end up here? But I was a high school coach for a long time, 23 years, the last 13 as a head coach. I resigned my head coaching job at the end of last season, and would have been fall of 23. And the day of, or maybe right after that I resigned, I got a call from Dan Mendocino, who's our president of our ownership group here, and wanted to know my interest in taking over as a general manager for the Liberty. And um, to be really honest, I didn't have any interest at first, and Francis Flax, had been a longtime GM here with the Liberty, and I've known Coach for a long, long time, and was always great to me, especially as a young coach. And Coach Flax was a phenomenal junior college basketball coach, and gave me a lot of advice as I was, kind of starting off and doing my thing. And Dan, I coached his son Dylan in high school, and so I'd known both of those guys for a long time, and I think the world of both of those guys. And Dan said, I'll circle back in a couple of weeks and we'll reach back out. And I know there's a lot going on in your world, and so we, he texted me back, and my wife and I were talking about it, and she's like, I think you owe those guys, at least the opportunity to present, what they're thinking and things like that. And so sat down with them one evening, and you know had some pretty pointed questions for them, and as far as kind of what they saw, and what their goal was and things like that. And they're all about winning championships, and they're all about Salina, and you know didn't have delusions of grandeur, didn't think that they would become billionaires owning an indoor football team. And which I think can be the downfall sometimes, of ownership groups. And um, probably, I left that meeting thinking maybe this is something I want to look into. And so I spent about a month, talked to a lot of different people, and I didn't want it to be just a good fit for me. I wanted it to be a good fit for the Liberty, and you know, if I had the right things to bring to the table to make our organization better. And so about mid-January, pulled the trigger, and here I am.
We'll get into specifics here in just a moment, but overall, what was this season like for you in Salina? What was the moment you thought it was going to turn disastrous, and how was Salina able to survive this season?
The moment I thought it was going to be disastrous, I think we're going to have to pluralize that word. I think there were moments. You know, it, it was, obviously, everybody that follows Arena Ball knows that it wasn't the most ideal season ever. And there was definitely times, me coming in having very little experience at all. Even, back in February, some of the meetings, and correspondence that we'd have with the league office, I'm kind of sitting here thinking, is this normal? I mean, just as a high school football coach, you kind of have to wear a lot of hats, and obviously you're not doing a ton like the sales world or some of the stuff that you do in this role. But um, just making sure simple things like footballs and practice equipment, and we had 4 rule changes, and I'm like, this. I mean, I know that there's a little bit of Wild West, at this level, for even the most, strong standing leagues and groups and things like that. But it was it was real wild. And so I definitely had some red flags going off a lot. But as you go through the season, and obviously, when when Coach Fisher and Jerry Kurz and Gary Compton took over the just the league operations. That was a breath of fresh air for sure. And I remember talking to Coach O on a Sunday and got an email from Gary about scheduling a meeting. And as crazy as this sounds, that was like the first meeting from the league that we were going to have since before the season started. And I was kind of like, and had a had a exactly detailed out what was going to happen in the meeting and what we were going to talk about and what we needed to bring to the meeting and things like that. And so I was like, thankfully, like there's kind of some sanity here in all this. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously there was some more peaks and valleys, but, overall, it was definitely a wild time, but I think also a lot of good things came out of it too. And, moving forward, not just for us, but for the league and, um, you know, you, you, you kind of do those, trials and tribulations and the ones that survive, kind of you grow a lot. You grow a lot of with the other ownership groups and coaches and GMs of the teams that kind of survived what that was, and you come out stronger for it, and we're awfully excited.
A lot of people were surprised heading into the season that the four CIF teams joined the league. But at the end of the year, four of the eight teams that survived are CIF teams. What do you think that says about the strength of those teams?
Well, and I get it, the small market thing and big market and all that stuff, but I still think what 90% of this is the team ownership groups, the individual team ownership groups. And um, I think a lot of mistakes were made, but, when you go into a season with five teams that don't have an ownership group, you're in trouble. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, there's so much that goes into it that the average person doesn't think about. They see the product on the field and all that stuff, but um, I, the ownership groups, with Steven and all the guys out in Dodge down in Wichita, and then our group, they're guys that have been here, done that. They know how to run things. They do it the right way, and so yeah, we're all four of us are relatively small market, and some of us are really small market, but you know it again, I think what matters most is people that know what the heck they're doing and are kind of in it for the right reason. And I think that's why you saw 50% of the teams staying at the end were CIF teams.
On the field, you had a pretty good season. I believe you all finished 7-3. You competed well against Albany in the playoffs. What are your thoughts overall on the season on the field, and what are some of your best memories from the season?
Um, I think our thing here is we want a championship culture. On the field, off the field, we're doing this to win championships, and um, I think we were certainly proud of the way we handled ourselves. The players, the coaches, front office people, ownership group, all those things handled the season. But I'd be lying to you if I said we weren't disappointed in Albany, and I think um, you know really that first half of the semifinal game, was fantastic. We lost a couple of guys, and their depth really showed out. And it was Albany's so well ran and coached and has great players and it's I think that second half you kind of saw a little bit of the difference and kind of where our roster was by that point in the season and there was definitely some wound licking, as we returned. But it was a great time, and we we're awfully proud, to finish the regular season with like we did. We did really want that last regular season game, but it was outside of our control, and that was kind of our thing all year, from every person in our organization. We're going to control what we can control because there was a lot going on that we couldn't. But there's still things that you can, and so we were proud of what we did, and looking for a lot more next year.
What did you learn as a franchise through this challenging season? What are some of your takeaways from the season?
Oh man, a lot. I mean, it's uh, I think on the field, adapting to the arena rules and things like that. And our coaching staff, I thought, throughout the season just grew enormously. Obviously, we start with Coach O. I mean, Hall of Famer and incredible record. But he played in the AFL, but hasn't coached a ton in it. And watching he and Coach Martinez, and then we brought Coach King in. When unfortunately they had to fold up north, and um, watching those guys quickly adapt to all the changing rules, and we're starting an Ironman, and then and continuously trying to make our roster. That was one of the biggest things was when you start a season thinking you're going to be having to play Ironman, you recruit a specific roster for that, and then when you go away from it, you're you're kind of at a disadvantage, from a true, two-way player. And so, as we went through the season, changing the roster, adapting to the rule changes, I think our coaching staff and then our players too, they've got to follow and kind of grow through that. And I think it put us in a great position, just with that final roster that we kind of ended the season with, from a coaching standpoint, player standpoint, to go into 25, really ready to compete for an AF1 championship. And I think, off the field, with me, it's, obviously being a first year guy, I, every day was a learning experience. And there was definitely a couple times where I'm like, holy cow, like this is a lot. And man, I screwed that up or something like that. But, it's, I'm excited, you know, you're excited because you take all those lessons and now you get a whole off season, into the season, to really kind of take a lot of. I'm always a big idea guy, and put a lot of those into motion and see how well we can execute it and see what happens.
When you evaluate things, what's it going to take for you all to get to the next step and compete for a championship?
Well, I mean, it's just continue to build what we build, and I think um, we have a great fan base here in Salina, and in that Dodge first round playoff game, that's on CBS Sports, and it was a brutal weekend to have a game, Fourth of July weekend, and so we were a little bit disappointed, in our crowd size. We knew it was going to be rough going in, and that's why we had some of our angst we did losing that Week 10 game. But you know, there's just so much going on that weekend, but our fans are passionate and they're very football knowledgeable. And so it was an incredible atmosphere. And that's kind of one of my personal big things for us is, we want to, Salina's a small town, but our arena, we can hold 7,000, which is honestly a little bit too big for the size of the city. And so, really expanding into the greater area, not just in Salina, but expanding out more and really building that. We topped out at 4,200 last year, was our biggest crowd, and we kind of want that to be the floor going forward, and you know have a lot of good ideas and things that are already in motion there, and you know on the field, I think you know like I said, I've touched on that quite a bit. We've already learned a lot, and it's putting together that roster and really the depth of roster, that we need to compete with, the Billions and Albany's and Orlando's and Nashville's and Southwest Kansas's and and the expansion teams coming in. We feel great about the coaching staff we're putting together, and I think that's another big thing that Coach O and I both have really been big on is really kind of expanding our coaching staff and it helps not just in recruiting but in practices and in game stuff and we were asking a lot of Coach O last season as far as what he was doing in game and in practice, but we need to get him more help and we're well on our way to doing that.
You ended up moving to the AF1 with the remaining teams. After everything that happened, was there any discussions on going a different direction, or was you all set to continue on in this direction with the other teams?
Honestly, that's the ownership group is, I mean, that's all their call and you know the discussions that I was involved in, I think there was kind of a lot of um, we were we like the idea of competing on a national stage and I think the big thing for us was just the business side of things, league wise, like was it going to make sense? Did we feel good about it? Was it going to be a repeat of last year and I think when the dust settled, July, August and all those things were being discussed that it, that it was a simple decision and to stick and with a group that was coming back and I think we're really excited for it.
What are you most excited about in this next chapter in the AF1?
Well, I mean, a lot of different things. Um, it, I think it starts with our front office and with Coach Fisher and Jerry Kurz and Gary Compton and all those guys, having that stability and having having people in place that have done it a lot and have a lot of experience at it. And I know Coach Fisher's new to this world, kind of like I am, but not that I'm comparing myself to Coach Fisher whatsoever, but but you know, just Coach Fisher's a guy with such high integrity, and you never question whether he's going to do the right thing, and so which goes a long way when he's the one that has to make the ultimate call. I mean, that's what you want in a leader is a guy that you might disagree with him in his decision, but you know that he has such great integrity and is going to have everybody's well-being in mind. He's going to make the what he feels is the right decision for the league, and I think that that's critical going forward. I think that was the peace of mind that we needed in Salina to have those guys, continue on, and I think for specifically all three of those guys, I think what they saw early in the season, and Jerry and Gary weren't even involved at all in anything, in any way. I think you just saw some arena guys that were horrified by what was going on and jumped in head first with no, I don't know if they were even drawing a salary at first. They just wanted to get this thing fixed and like I said, like when you go through that kind of a year, as all our owners did, throughout the league, especially those last eight groups and our front office, you really forge strong bonds and um, you 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 know you you pretend like you don't hear all the outside voices and things like that, and obviously mistakes were made and nobody's perfect and all that stuff, but the, we want to make the best product of indoor arena possible. And so I think what came out of, the 24 season was a group of people that can have a chip on their shoulder a little bit and got bloodied up a little bit, but picked themselves back up and now we're ready to rock and roll. So, we're very excited.
What do you personally want to see from this new league, and what are some things the fans can expect in Salina that they didn't see this year?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm, really excited about is, um, I think I think fans are the most critical piece to all of this, and not just from a monetary standpoint, like not just me being the front office guy wanting ticket sales or all that stuff, but um, I think in this day and age, it's so easy to give people all access. And, for not just in our little world here of arena football or indoor football, but everything in general. I think people are always way too guarded about allowing people in and seeing those things, and really, and doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's football, but the NFL, I think, in a lot of those shows that they're doing now, whether the quarterback show on Netflix and wide receivers this year, and you know you know being able to see, our players and our coaches, not just on the field, but, more intimately. They know what kind of people they are, and kind of welcome into their lives. And I think it's important, and, it's something that we've all talked about as a big group is, we want to bring the fans in. This is their league, not some owner or something like that. This is all about the fans, and without them, none of this happens. And so doing as much as we can, of fan interaction, opening our doors and closets and all that stuff, to showing all the great people that are in our league, and specifically in our organization, and continue to get out in the communities, and using social media, and um, being available as possible to showing all the great human beings that we have involved in this.
It was announced this morning that Coach O would be returning. What does that mean to you all as a franchise moving forward?
It's huge. I mean, Salina Liberty, was they went 2 years with pretty rough seasons before Coach O came to town, and since then it's he really brought on that championship mindset, and it's he's loved by the people of Salina, and um, it was big for us, and from a personal standpoint, he's I love working with him. We have a lot of fun together, and even in some of the really tough times when we're asking ourselves what the heck is going on, and the walls feel like they're tumbling down, everything's on fire. But from a personal standpoint, I'm excited about it because he's a good buddy of mine, and getting him back in town, and it's it's big for us, it's big for our players, big for our community, and we're excited, and we're glad we got him back.
When you look at your product there in Salina moving forward, what do you see the most growth in as you continue to improve your product?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is attendance, and doing a better job of continually building awareness, and you know putting it. We have a great product on the field, and we're going to continue to do that. I have no doubt on that. But you know, from a football standpoint, but also from an entertainment value. I mean, the you know it, this is such a cool sport where there's so many opportunities to you don't go and are bored out of your mind between plays and things like that. So it's continued to growing. The end game experience. People in the stands, being a big part of the game. We sell out our floor area, our VIP sections, every year, and it makes for such a cool atmosphere in Salina because there's a lot of people right up on the walls, and having a good time and interacting with players and things like that. And the players do a fantastic job, and not just our guys either. The opposing players, they love it and get into it, and but continue to expand. Like I said, our our biggest number last year was about 4,200, and we want that to be the floor now, and you know making this the place where nobody wants to come and play. We have a fantastic home record, and we want to continue to make it that it's the thing to do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Whenever we're scheduled to play in the spring. Come to TPEC, the pizza box, Tony's Pizza Event Center, and watch a show.
Final question for you, Sam. Do you got a message for the Salina fans out there?
Looking forward to 2025. With the AF1 and as our league is expanding and bringing in new teams, new opportunities. This last season was the first year that I think we've ever had any national broadcast come out of TPEC and since it's been around, 50 years. And so we're just going to make it bigger and better. When we get the schedule out and we get ticket sales kicked off and you're gonna love coming to games next year. We got Coach O back and bring a lot of guys back that the Salina community really fell in love with last year, and it's going to be great.
Sam, appreciate the time, man. Thanks for being with us.
Appreciate you, Josh.